So today we're joined by Bas Mawhin. He is an outsourcing whiz from Shore Solutions, and he can help you with your outsourcing and your business structuring.
So my personal journey in the Philippines really started about 8 years ago. I came to the Philippines in 2009, and as much as I'd like to tell it was a love story like many other foreigners had when they came out here in those days, I really came out here with a goal. I came out here with a company called Shell. At that time it was an internship. It was run through an organization called ISEC. ISEC is an organization that has postgraduate students go and get an experience abroad, which was the case for myself. So I did that for a project for roughly 6 to 9 months, which was great. It was a combination of getting an experience out in what the great things are in the Philippines, and also already what the sort of the gray areas are in the Philippines. I dealt a lot with sort of health and wellness associations. That was also one of the programs that we were on at the time. Now, fast forwarding to today, I got really the hang of the Philippines. I got really excited about the Philippines. I wanted to stay. I felt that after that sort of 6 to 9 months internship, it wasn't done yet. And after that, I've been involved with various projects and various sort of businesses. One of which was an HR, SAP payroll provider company. I did a lot of project management for them. It was a very interesting experience, I must say. And then slowly I moved more into the outsourcing and offshoring as we see it today, and specifically focusing on SME type of businesses. In the olden days, you had literally 2 options. You could either go and set up your own business, or you could look for one of the bigger players where your small company wouldn't really fit in. And that has been a journey for the past sort of 5 to 6 years, where I helped over maybe 60, 70 SME businesses established in the Philippines through sort of different arrangement, different types of outsourcing and offshoring models. So far so good. It's been an interesting journey so far, and I'm looking for all the excitement that's still ahead of us. So the progress I've seen over the past sort of 10 years, I would say, is that it's a very interesting journey that it's been in. It's been in, because when I joined Shell back in the days, there was a huge commitment to a shared service center. And at that time, it was also really peak for a lot of companies to start to establish that. Because the step before that, it was more the bigger companies that came out here, the Accentures, the IBMs, and the likes. And then you started to look more at global companies that already had a global presence, but looked at efficiencies. Simply looking at areas where they could find sort of skill sets and processes that they could park somewhere else in the Philippines, build that shared service center and service their internal process and their internal skill sets for that matter. So I think that was one of the first things that I observed when I moved here back in 2009. And slowly more sort of progress was made towards that gap in the market where the smaller business owner, and I say that with all respect, was looking for something where their company, if they wanted to start with 5, 10, or a small team sort of in the Philippines, is there a solution out there apart from just simply setting up my own and taking all the risks on my shoulders and not really knowing what sort of adventure I'm getting myself into. And that's definitely sort of that sort of second stage that I've seen when I moved more into the sort of the outsourcing and offshoring world. And it was peak time. Everybody was sort of knocking on the door. How do you do this? What can be done? All sorts of very primitive and basic questions were asked that really surprised me. But it was definitely a signal where we were entering more of that stage where SME businesses, whether it was Australia, Europe, Asia, the US, we're starting really to knock on the door and say, look, we understand the benefits. We see what leverage we can have. How are we doing it? And that was definitely sort of that second stage. If you look at what we see today, it's more matured. We see a lot more options out there in the Philippines. In those days, there were very limited options that SMEs could pick and choose from. Nowadays, there's such more transparency. What is pricing nowadays? What sort of models are out there? What sort of engagement options do you have, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is definitely at sort of the third stage that I've seen. And even companies that started 5 years ago said, look, why don't we start a BPO and get us a few friends or a few of our own networks to start and come and join the journey of outsourcing in the Philippines. And I think we're at that point. What am I sort of envisioning to move forward is definitely the parts of a lot more sort of IT and technology kicking in, highly and more value add type of services, more automated services. So it's definitely about, it's the right time. It's to really start injecting that in the models of BPOs and outsourcers. If you're not going to do that, I'd say in the next sort of year, 2, 3 years or so, yeah, you're going to fall behind. That's the reality. If you come into the Philippines as business owners, you indeed have a number of different options. So if we look at the number of options that are out there, it's, in my opinion, and again, I said it with all respect to all the providers and outsourcers out there, I make it always very, very simple. There's literally just 3 models, but there's so many different names and naming conventions out there that people just put forward because it either ranks better online or it sounds fancy or it's just an exciting term. But for me, there's really that point where you as a business owner, you always need to ask yourself the question, what am I to achieve here if I'm going to build a team or small operations in the Philippines or an operations in the Philippines for that matter? That's really the first question and the first dialogue that I would normally have. And based on that, I'll navigate the discussion into a direction of a model that makes sense and it is applicable as much as possible. So to drill it down to those 3 things, you got the facility model where you say, look, I'll take care of everything myself. I need somebody to take care of my real estate, my infrastructure, and I'm going to pay a seat fee for that or an office space fee for that. And all the other things I'll take care of myself, or I'll find some other people to help me with that. But I run the show, I manage the people, they're hired under my own entity. I just need somebody that can host my team, my operations. And then you get the other model where you say, look, I still want to be in control and I still want to manage them, but I want to lean on a little bit more services, if you like. So I want that facility, I want that infrastructure, but look, I don't want to worry too much about setting up a business. So I want them to be legally employed with some sort of a provider. I want the payroll to be done. I want the recruitment to be done. I want the HR to be done. All these sort of secondary things in your business model that you don't necessarily want to worry about. Could be reasons that you're comfortable with, you don't have the scalability in your company, you don't have the skill in your company. And in that way, you can leverage that from a provider in the Philippines. And I call that sort of the second option. And a lot of the SME businesses, as you may understand, really, really like this model because there's the entrepreneur that still has skin in the game, has control over the people, and yet they leverage on all these sort of benefits and services of the provider. And then you go sort of to the third model where you're like, you're going to lean more on capability, skill set of the provider or your partner for that matter, where they're going to commit to more management deliverables, whether this is for a customer service team that you're trying to build, whether this is a project base where you're trying to get graphic designs out or logos out for that matter. But the reality here is that you may pay a little more, but you get all of the other 2 models if required. And at the same time, the provider is willing to commit to an outcome, to a performance, to a deliverable. And that may very well suit people that are not necessarily looking for just a cost efficiency, but also looking for an added value service where they not necessarily have the knowledge. And then they can leverage on the knowledge of the provider that then equips them with certain directions on how to navigate through the pieces of setting up a customer service team or setting up a proper marketing team and so on. That's a definitely yes. So the scary part, I'd say today, is more the options available. So it all goes back to the initial dialogue. What is it that you want? If you go in blank and you don't have a real sort of goal or objective with what you're trying to achieve by building a team in the Philippines or outsource a team somewhere in the Philippines, you're almost set for failure. So that dialogue with yourself, with business owners in your company, with drivers and leadership in your company, it's absolutely critical. And once you start to understand that, and you now can go out and start to find those turnkeys that would fit you, not only just from a solution point of view, but also from a vision, if you like. I mean, there are options available. You don't necessarily need to go with a company that you think is so-so. You can find companies with leaders in those companies that are actually just having a mutual shared vision with you. You can look at things, for example, at the right mix. Is my company looking for customer service? Then why would I partner with a highly skilled company in serviced offices? You're looking for providers that are really looking to add value and helping you to build a customer service team. Looking at, for example, quality outputs. If that's something of one of your parameters in building a team, then put those parameters in place and now start to link them up with the people or with the companies that you're looking for. So I suppose the short story here is, yes, there are turnkey solutions, yes, there are options available, but it all comes back to that initial dialogue that you need to have internally. And before you go out and search for all these turnkey options out there, you need to have certain answers given to questions on why you want to offshore to the Philippines, on why you want to build a team in the Philippines. And today, it cannot be simply, let's save cost. It has to be more than that. A lot of people in today's outsourcing world start with one FTE. And for the very simple reasons is you want to test it. It's like you're not gonna buy a car without test driving it. You're not gonna buy a new MacBook for that matter if you've not touched it or you've looked at it or if you find the different specs and you got a bit of a tangible experience out of it. It's nothing different in this world. And even something I would suggest, if you're a smaller business, a small business, and you've identified certain skill sets and processes that you could outsource, get started with one. Get started. There's enough opportunities out there where there's enough flexibility to make mistakes and to run into errors and learn from that and improve on that and then slowly start building your team. It's the ideal way of doing it. If you have the capability to start with a bigger size, no problem. I think the message here is there are options out there. Don't get stuck into conversations where people say you need to start with at least 20 people. Then that's great. But then I go back to what I said earlier. Look at that cultural fit. Look at that shared vision and answer those questions. I need a provider that allows for me that I can start with 2, 3, 5 or 6 or 10 people. If then the answer is of these providers that you cannot, move on. Take them off your tick list and move on, because there's enough businesses out there where you can do so and they have the ability to create enough flexibility or provide enough support that you would need to make this into a success. If we look at other skills catching up with the so-called original skill set that we started with in the Philippines, or getting them better at par with the expectation of the Western world, definitely. And I'd even say in the olden days where I was very much focused on my research and get out there and spread the word as a bit of a priest even on how outsourcing could benefit your business, and I even felt I was starting a new religion, really, because there were times where the door was just slammed in front of me and I had to move on. But look, yes, it is happening. And in the olden days when we started to sort of do all our research, there was a lot of cool data available. And I would say 4 or 5 years ago, where we looked more at the knowledge process outsourcing, KPO, as we also know it. The analytical ability. So it's not just simply following a process in the world of accounting and the finance. It's actually manipulating data. It's interpreting data. It's providing feedback on data. So yeah, when we started 10 years ago, it was the process that was really dictating the outsourcing success. Nowadays, we've seen a beautiful transition a transformation, if you like, in skill set that has followed the process, but we're now bold enough to say that the skill set here has that capability of also interpreting, manipulating. In other words, add value to a business with a different angle, a different mindset. So the answer is definitely yes. If you look at other angles, I would like to see a lot more of that, because this is where outsourcing will survive. Any process at some point that is so optimized and will be automated, and technology will take over, and we'll see that in the example of finance, where there's a lot of more open source applications and software available where these things can already be done. So what's then the value of a human being sitting in a desk? It's exactly that, how to interpret it, how to make it sense to a business. And that's definitely something we're seeing. We're not only seeing that in knowledge processing sort of skill set, we see that in development, where a lot of other countries are suffering to find unique coding language skill sets. We have them. If we don't have them, highly trainable. Why? Because in the olden days, the IBMs and Accentures already penetrated this country, so they have that fundamental understanding of what is expected in the Western world. It's just a matter of re-engineering it to the model that your business is operating in. It's a matter of navigating that through some of the methodologies and the principles you're using. So there's a definite yes there. There are areas that we need to improve on from a business point of view, from an educational point of view, but overall, this has been a very positive transition compared to the olden days. Investing in teams, in building an offshore team, is probably the most critical piece. And the fun part is selecting your right model, selecting your right vendor. But the minute you've signed that contract and you've gone through all the legalities, and in some cases it can be really easy, and in some cases it can be a bit of a tedious process depending on what sort of complexity you have as far as your solution is, your offshore solution is concerned. But that's where it really starts. And either you need to have that capability internally, and either you need to lean on that capability of the vendor that you partnered with. And I cannot emphasize enough when I'm putting these solutions together myself for companies out there, is that the training piece and the quality assurance piece is so deeply embedded and instilled in the DNA from day number one. Look at training pieces. Yes, you have a certain way of how to run your company culturally. Yeah, it's important. It's important because you get sort of the right people into your company, but then the journey starts. How do you like them to be trained? How do you like them? What sort of parameters are you using? How long is that training for? What is the upskilling? I mean, customers nowadays, especially when you're looking at the e-commerce side of the world, it's constantly changing. Consumers get more and more demanding. Competition is up the roof. It's skyrocket. So this is a constant DNA change, if you like. So therefore, it has to be embedded. So having a partner, having that skill set, having that leadership internally is absolutely critical. If you don't have that in place, and I cannot have comfortable discussions with you when I put together solutions with you, then I'll tell you straight up, you're not ready yet to get started. And if you have the materials, if you have that vision, if you have the understanding of what your customer needs or what the business needs, but not necessarily a skill set, I can offer it to you, because now I can see where I can add value with my training and quality sort of capabilities. But start with training manuals. You need to start, it's like building a house, your pillars. You need to start with a training manual. There need to be certain processes in place that are captured. From that point onwards, how do you assess that moving forward? When do you start tweaking a process? When do you start tweaking a parameter? When do you start feeding feedback back from your consumers or your customers, or even internally, back into that training manual, back into that process? You need to have a QA piece in there. So this is a beautiful marriage between two pieces that are absolutely vital in building a success from day number one. If you fail to do that, you fail to build a successful team anywhere else in the world, or even for that matter, in your own offices, wherever your business may be. outsourcing success drilled down in just 3 things. That's almost impossible. Let me try that. Look, I think, allow me to go back into a time where a small business would start and would have identified a vendor, started with a few employees, started to enjoy the benefits, started to scale, and all of a sudden he or she sees the bill coming in and like, wow, I pay a lot for those services. Let me do a quick calculation on this. Yeah, if I do it this way, and I'll take out these services, yeah, and I can hire a person here, and I can hire a person there, and I can hire a person here to do my recruitment, my payroll. That's just a $10 thing. That's a $20. You see what's happening here? The thing is happening, all of a sudden you're trying to run your full operations in the Philippines, whereas a lot of the companies came to the Philippines with the question to scale, to still control them, but to scale. Don't have these headaches to deal with, and all of a sudden, they now want to deal with the headaches because they can save another 15-20% cost. So my first thing as someone that has helped a lot of companies out there, I would highly suggest that when you start building it in the first year, 2, 3, 4 years, look at things where you can optimize, look at things where you can scale, look at things, and let the partner worry about the rest. I mean, that 15-20% is not going to help your business grow in other areas of the world or in other demographics in the market that you're in other territories that you're trying to penetrate in your own country or your own neighborhood for that matter. Look at things that you can scale, because all of a sudden, if you take that on yourself, your offshore operations is now becoming your first priority, and your first priority is now more running a BPO yourself rather than managing a highly effective offshore team. And that's really mistake number 1. Look, if you look at others, I've also seen companies that sort of come in and say, yeah, it's an exciting journey, you know, outsourcing, offshoring, it's great. Where can I sign? And you'll be like, okay, you don't want to know how to do things? Or, no, I've heard great things. I'm going for that full managed option. You know, I just need XYZ. I need a bit of a customer service team. And, I'm just starting off my business. I'm getting clients in. They start calling me. I don't really want to deal with that. Great. You guys have the solution. You got a great track record and great salesperson I talk to. Where's the dotted line? There's a lot of people that also still come in nowadays, even there are so many options, that think that outsourcing is somewhat of a solution to a problem that they're currently experiencing in their company, or a challenge that they're currently experiencing in their company, and all of a sudden outsourcing is the solution. And again, then this is not the right mindset to get started with an outsourcing business. The right mindset here is to partner with somebody that you can inject with the right type of knowledge. That doesn't mean that we cannot overcome challenges. It doesn't mean that we cannot improve your CSAT, your NPS scores and whatnot. But you need to come in with a set of data. You need to come in with a set vision. You need to come in with a set parameters and goals before you even start considering even signing up for a dotted line. So that would be really my I wouldn't necessarily call it my second tip, but more of my experience, that I have experienced companies that come in and say outsourcing is my solution to solve my business and grow it to the point that I can have cocktails and sit on the beach. That's not really what outsourcing to the Philippines is all about. As much as I like to say that, that's not really what it's all about. Look, and a third thing would really be is, and I think that can never be forgotten, especially when you start outsourcing to a different world, to a different part of the world, is the cultural nuances. It's probably my peers, other business owners, or other people have probably mentioned that, but I think this is where it's very critical. And even in my personal experience, when I came out here as a foreigner with the mindset, let's get things done, let's do it my way or the highway, that sort of very direct approach is not going to work, especially not here in the Philippines. You're dealing with a different culture. You need to get yourself across on what those cultural nuances are. There's so much good skill set out there, so much good competency out here, but if you take the same approach and how the Western mindset has grown up in, and with that sort of competitiveness, that directness, and loving the discussions, loving the conflicts and whatnot, it's just not going to work here. So definitely a tip here, if you want to do some business, and you want to do some successful business with people here, in finding the right people, training the right people, managing the right people, people that fit your company. It's about having that cultural understanding. That's where you build your culture. That's where you tweak potentially your existing culture. That's where you're changing your style of management, even your personality for that matter. And putting those dots together, I think those three things, if you take that on and you inject that in the dialogue with yourself or other peers in the business or other business owners in deciding whether you go to the Philippines or not, I think it's a really great mix to kick things off. I'm working in a company called Shore, and Shore has been going through a very interesting journey. It's also been around for more than 10 years. Great journey where it started as a consultant company, advising companies what to do and what not to do, how to set up, how not to set up, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden I realized, look, if we start advising them, why not just get a little office and put in a small solution ourselves and bring them on board, bring them on our own umbrella, to the point where I got introduced to them. This was back in 2013, and the question was raised to me, Bas, we'd like to change our go-to-market strategy. And look, I said, that's exciting. What is that you want? We want to grow as a business, and we feel that we're having a set of really cool solutions, but we seem to not really get to the point where we get the excitement of all these other businesses out there that we have. And all of a sudden, the birth of the 3 products of establishing yourself in the Philippines was born. That's the part where I focused on. That's the part where myself and my team and the whole entire sort of our organization started to focus on, saying, look, we want to be the provider that offers that sort of journey approach for companies to consider outsourcing in the Philippines. Whether it's just plainly and purely, you need a facility, you need a set of infrastructure tools, some IT support on the ground to run it. You come in, you have your own company and set it up with us. So therefore make it an easy runway for you to get started. Or you want to still manage and control the people, and but don't legally employ them. You don't want to set it up here. You don't want to take those high risks. You don't want to invest money. You don't want to necessarily already put a lot of money on the table to get started, where we say, look, there's no upfront cost. You just get you just pick and choose what sort of skill set you want. We walk you through that journey. We'll take care of everything as long as you can manage them, as long as you can train them and you control the day-to-day activities. We'll take care of the other pieces. To a point where you say, look, you want to get more involved with the management responsibility, where we drive certain management responsibilities, where we can look at performance matrices that you currently have. How can we optimize certain processes that you currently have, to a more, call it more a blended management model, where we really support optimizing the added value pieces to your customer. So, yeah, look, that's a constant dialogue, and even breaking that down, it has sort of a menu approach, if you like, as well, where people can pick and choose, and that's really what I enjoy doing, that I'm passionate about doing, is, you know, sitting down with people saying, look, there is a menu, let us walk through it. What suits you, what doesn't suit you, and be that sort of advisory. I've had people that I sat around the table and I couldn't do anything for them. And I advised them, maybe you can start in 6 months from now. Maybe this is not the right time for you yet. So yeah, look, I think I would be super excited. I'm always very excited to have that sort of dialogue with people, with business owners, with CEOs. Run them through that sort of initial sort of discussion, run them through that initial sort of excitement on, okay, what to do next, how to get started. Look, that's what I do, that's what I love. And yeah, if anybody's out there that wants to have a discussion, bring it on. Here I am.